Trying to be social after calling yourself awkward is like running a race with your shoelaces tied together. You're tripping not because you can't run, but because you believe that label belongs to you. Most people don't realize how heavy that word becomes once it sticks. Awkward sounds small, even cute, but it rewires the way you enter a room. You start expecting failure before anyone has even noticed you. And that's the trap. You pull back, not because people shut you out, but because you shut yourself down first. You become the gatekeeper of your own connection. Bro, maybe some people are just born awkward? No, nobody's born awkward. Babies don't overthink how to wave or laugh, they just do it. What we call awkwardness is really just social rust, the squeak of skills we stopped using. It's like getting one parking ticket and deciding you're a terrible driver forever. The story hardens faster than the truth. So here's the truth. You're not awkward, you're out of rhythm. And rhythm can be relearned step by step, one small conversation at a time. Because the real lie isn't that you can't connect, it's that you ever stopped being someone who could. You think you are bad at socializing because conversations sometimes die out or you misread a tone. But being social is not about never misreading. It is about staying long enough to correct yourself. Most of us are not bad at people. We are bad at predicting them. We guess what they will think, what they will say, what they will judge, and we run those simulations until the moment is already gone. It feels like rehearsing an entire argument before anyone even shows up. You spend so much time predicting rejection that you forget to give connection a chance. But here is what is funny. When you actually talk to people, they are rarely the villains your brain created. Most of them are just as distracted, insecure, and human as you are. Score. So the problem is not confidence. It is miscalculation. You have been running the wrong social algorithm, one that assumes everyone is watching while they are actually lost in their own thoughts. Stiller. Bro, that sounds like a cop-out. Are you saying I should just ignore anxiety? No. Anxiety is real. What is fake is the certainty that everyone notices every move you make. The truth is, most people remember 1% of what you say, and none of how you fumbled it. Ruingers. You do not need to predict people to belong with them. You just need to show up without your forecast in the way. Underscore. Bro, that sounds too easy. Just stop predicting people and everything gets better. No, not everything gets better instantly. But everything becomes possible again. When you stop trying to control every social outcome, you create space for curiosity to do its job. Think about it. The best conversations you have ever had were not perfectly planned. They were slightly messy, full of small pauses and laughter that came from nowhere. Live. Yet we chase perfection, like there is a magic sentence that unlocks belonging. There is not. The moment you try to sound perfect, you stop sounding human. But what if someone actually judges me? Like they really think I am weird? Someone probably will. The goal is not to avoid judgment. It is to survive it without rewriting your identity around it. You can be awkward in a moment without becoming an awkward person. That sounds like mental gymnastics. Maybe it is, but it works, because confidence is not the absence of awkwardness. It is the ability to keep talking through it. The people you call naturally social are not immune to discomfort. They just recover faster. They trip, laugh it off, and keep walking. So maybe the lie is not that you are awkward, but that everyone else is not. Top. Most people believe everyone remembers their awkward moments. The truth is, almost no one does. Studies on memory and attention show people retain barely 1% of what others say in casual talk. You think they notice your voice crack or that weird pause after a joke. But in reality, they are too busy replaying their own mistakes to care about yours. Everyone is starring in their own mental movie. It is the spotlight effect. You walk into a room feeling like 100 eyes are tracking your every move, when most people do not even look up from their phones. This bias has a cost. When you assume people judge you, your brain activates the same fear circuits used in physical danger. You feel under attack. even when you are safe. So you start avoiding social situations altogether. You skip parties, keep your camera off in meetings, and call it personality when it is really self-protection. Bro, maybe that is just being introverted. Not exactly. Introversion is about where you recharge energy. Avoidance is about where you hide from risk. They are not the same. When you mix them up, you limit your life to avoid imaginary embarrassment. That is, like refusing to drive because one time you stalled the car. The more you dodge the discomfort, the smaller your social world becomes. You build walls to feel safe and end up lonely inside them. There was a programmer named Evan who once described himself as socially invisible. He was brilliant at code, but froze during small talk. Every word felt like a bug he could not debug. Instead of reading another book on confidence, he decided to treat social life like a project. Every week, he forced himself to attend one local meetup. His only rule was to talk to one new person each time. The first few weeks were brutal. He forgot names, laughed at the wrong moments, and once spilled coffee on a stranger's shoes. But he kept showing up. Something changed around week 5. The same people started greeting him first. Someone invited him to grab lunch. The awkwardness did not disappear, it just stopped defining him. Over a year, Evan hosted his own meetup for beginner coders. The guy who once avoided eye contact was now leading discussions with 20 people. When asked what flipped the switch, he said, "I stopped trying to be interesting. I started being consistent. ... That line stuck with me, because it captures the truth we forget. Social fluency is not about charisma. It is about repetitions. Each attempt is a rep that builds comfort. Evan's story proves something simple. You do not overcome awkwardness by waiting for confidence. You build confidence by surviving awkwardness repeatedly until it loses its sting. And that is where belief begins. Not in theory, but in small, imperfect action. Before you roll your eyes, no. This is not another speech about faking confidence or smiling more. You have heard that 1,000 times, and it never worked, because it skips the hard part. The hard part is not talking to people. It is staying with yourself while you do. That quiet panic that shows up in your chest. The voice that whispers, "They think you are weird." That is the real opponent. Most advice tells you to drown that voice in positive affirmations. But ignoring fear is like muting a smoke alarm instead of finding the fire. You do not fix it by pretending it is not there. The better move is to make space for the discomfort and walk anyway. Because courage is not the absence of fear, it is the choice to act in its presence. Bro, that sounds poetic, but not practical. It actually is practical. You cannot control how fear shows up, but you can control how small you make your world because of it. The less you avoid, the less power fear keeps. Think of social moments like cold water. The longer you hesitate at the edge, the colder it feels. Once you jump in, your body adjusts and the panic fades. So this is not about becoming confident overnight. It is about learning to breathe through awkwardness until it loses its grip. And that small shift prepares us for the real question, not how do I fit in, but what am I really afraid of? The biggest shift happens when you stop calling it a flaw and start calling it a phase. Saying, "I'm awkward," freezes you in identity. Saying, "I haven't practiced yet," gives you motion. Think of any skill you learned. The first time you cooked, you burned the pan. The first time you drove, you almost hit the curb. Yet somehow, the first time you try small talk, you expect mastery. It is not a personality issue. It is a repetition issue. The brain wires what it repeats. If you repeat isolation, you learn silence. If you repeat attempts, you learn rhythm. Bro, what if I have been like this for years? Then good news. That just means you have not practiced in years. Muscles atrophy, but they never vanish. The same goes for social instincts. They wait for signal. Every conversation you enter is not a test of who you are. It is a training session for who you are becoming. You are not trying to prove you belong. You are building the habit of belonging. And once you see it like that, awkwardness becomes data. Each moment of tension shows where your next rep should go. So stop labeling yourself as socially broken. You are simply undertrained in a skill you can always rebuild. You do not fix it by waiting to feel ready. You fix it by moving while you still feel rusty. Onster, every week, someone online promises the same thing. 2 steps to be more confident. 3 tricks to make people like you. 10 hacks for social charisma. And every time, you click, hoping this one will finally fix it. International. But human connection is not a recipe. You cannot copy-paste confidence. It is not a software patch you can download overnight. The truth is messier. Real connection grows from failed jokes, awkward pauses, and moments that do not fit neatly into lists. That chaos is the curriculum. Bro, so there are no shortcuts at all? There are efficient paths, not shortcuts. You can learn faster by practicing more often, but you cannot skip the awkward phase. You can only move through it. People who seem effortlessly social did not find a secret formula. They just stopped quitting early. They showed up enough times for discomfort to turn into rhythm. The idea of a quick fix sells because it gives control. But control is the enemy of connection. The more you try to manage every detail, the less present you become. There is no 2-step guide for being human. You cannot script spontaneity. The best moments with others come from not knowing what will happen next and showing up anyway. So throw out the hacks and start collecting hours instead. Because awkwardness is not an obstacle to skill. It is the classroom it grows in. If you want something practical, start with 2 small habits. They sound simple but compound over time. The first is to treat every interaction like a warm-up, not an exam. When you stop grading yourself, your nervous system relaxes. A failed conversation is not evidence of who you are. It is just a rep that builds endurance. The more reps, the more fluent you get. Earther, say hello to the barista. Compliment a coworker. Ask a neighbor how their day went. None of these need to be memorable. They are just mental push-ups. Bro, that sounds too basic. Exactly. The basics are what you skipped because you thought social skill was a big performance. It is actually hundreds of micro-gestures practiced without pressure. The second habit is to ask questions you genuinely care about. Curiosity is stronger than confidence. It shifts focus away from your own fear toward what is actually happening in front of you. Ask things you would want to answer yourself. What excites you lately? What is something that surprised you this month? These open doors instead of testing walls. Collars. When you use curiosity as your compass, you stop forcing charm and start building connection. Confidence will follow as a side effect, not a requirement. Internet. Do these 2 things for a month and you will realize social skill is not about personality upgrades. It is about daily micro-choices that keep your world open. If this talk made you feel a little less broken, good. That means you have already started practicing without realizing it. You listened, reflected, maybe even nodded at one line. That counts as a rep, because connection begins quietly, long before you walk into a room. It starts in the mind when you stop calling yourself impossible to connect with. Every time you remind yourself you are learning, not failing, you loosen the label that held you back. The word awkward begins to fade, and in its place appears something softer, something true, something human. Bro, so now I am supposed to subscribe right _ Only if you want to keep this conversation going. Think of the subscribe button as a handshake you can redo anytime. No pressure, no perfect timing, just a small sign you are still in the room. _ Because the real goal is not to never feel awkward again. It is to keep talking, keep reaching, keep staying in motion even when it feels weird. That is how social fluency grows. So go ahead, talk to someone today. Trip on your words, laugh, recover, and let the rhythm return. That is how it starts. And if you ever forget, this video will still be here. A reminder that the lie was never that you were awkward. The lie was that you had to stay that way. Underscore.